But she told me to warn you. She said 2 words.
What 2 words? What were they? What did she say?
Bad wolf.
Doctor, what is it? What's bad wolf?
It's the end of the universe.
Radio Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 817. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So, we have things to talk about today.
Go on.
We have some things to talk about today.
Sounds like you're an angry parent at their child. You just, like you can't yet broach the subject of their truancy or whatever.
Oh, maybe.
So you threw a baseball into the neighbor's window.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here, to set the table.
So do you think this is acceptable behavior?
Maybe. To set the scene a little bit, this is kind of tragic. I thought about this yesterday as the news of Russell T Davies returning to Doctor Who stormed Twitter. Doctor Who was trending in Canada. That never happens. It was quite. I know it was quite something. So, I think so was David Tennant and basically everything else that happened from 2005 to 2008 in Doctor Who history. But what kind of upset me is that weeks ago we had planned for Warren is going to fly home to Edmonton, and we were thinking, hey, we should if you're going to fly home and be here for a week or something, we should get together and record. I'm going to record a whole episode and then do a commentary or something in person here at my house. And that was all great. And we're looking at the news thinking, well, it's probably not much going to be happening at the time. So it'll just be a pretty quick episode and stuff. I sure hope we can sort of get through it without being too short. And then our province has the worst COVID outbreak, tied with the fact that we have the worst government in the history of Canada. And so it's a mess here. And so Warren canceled his trip. And so we're on Zoom.
Yep.
And then the RTD news breaks. This is the episode that we would record it in person. This one right here. It's like they said, you know what? Our Radio Free Skaro is going to be in person. Let's drop this now. Let's drop the RTD.
That is exactly not what happened.
That's exactly what they would have done.
Nothing close to that happened. That is not no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's just nip that in the bud right now.
So yes, wow, what a thing! I was not expecting this. I don't know if anyone was. Russell T Davies was at least 4 days ago when he sort of teased it in retrospect on his Instagram feed. I think he sort of RTD2 is what he said. Is what a cute thing or whatever. Because there's a picture of him in 2008, and there he is right there. What an innocent little jape! And of course, it means that no, Russell T Davies is returning as Doctor Who showrunner. For the new series of Doctor Who starting in 2023 and beyond, BBC Studios partnering with Bad Wolf, of course, the studio set up by Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter, to produce Doctor Who. Gentlemen, your thoughts.
Who's going to begin here?
Go, Chris.
I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah,
sure.
Go for it.
Well, I mean, what do you say, right? It kind of seemed like it came out of left field. I'm glad we have an announcement, I guess. But I'm not sure I'm glad of who was announced. My overarching thought is RTD back in the day, he worked the room, he schmoozed, he's like, I want to bring back Doctor Who, and eventually, yep, it worked. There it was, came back, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I think he's back to put it to bed.
You think? Oh, you think he's put?
That is not a thought I had.
You think he's being brought back to kill it? Really?
Yep, I do.
I don't think he'd want to do that. But okay.
Yeah.
I think whatever distribution deals with China and whoever else once they get fulfilled, I think RTD is back to put Doctor Who down.
Well,
that is not something I thought
No.
of, but now that you're saying it, I'm like, oh, it's infesting my brain. Thanks for that, Chris.
you think that let's kill it. Let's bring the person back to kill it. I don't know. I feel like that's
Bring the creator back to kill it. Yeah.
wow. All right.
Rest it, whatever. Set it up in a position where it can be picked up again in X years down the road.
I don't see that, but for reasons I don't get into. But
I was having a bit of a Zoom chat with some other friends yesterday, and
how long has this been going on?
I was not the only person with that opinion, believe it or not. So.
That is because this is the first I've heard of that opinion. I'm not saying it's
That's
not
because
valid.
I haven't said it until now.
It's getting more. No, I'm just saying I haven't heard anybody else say it either. So.
Oh.
But that doesn't mean you're not wrong, which terrifies me. But anyway, would you rather go, Stephen, or shall I?
I'll go for it, Warren, please.
Okay, so my first impression, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, frankly. My first impression was, it's not April Fool's. What the hell's going on here? That was literally what I thought.
Right.
Like, what is going? Could this? And then I looked up and I'm like, well, this is Lizo Mazimba saying this, or Lizo Mazimba. So it's probably accurate because he doesn't. Like, he's a journalist. He's not going to lie about this. And then BBC 5 minutes later says the same thing. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. Well, okay. Now I'm like, having seen people say he's not the same RTD that did a bunch of stuff, a bunch of which I liked in 2005, but he's done years and years, and It's a Sin and a bunch of other stuff. So we'll have something different and interesting, and presumably not a retread, which is all I believe that's to be the case. And besides that, yes, he's already proven he's a competent showrunner. Now, here's where I get off the train. My immediate thought was, okay, so all of us, not all of us, but a lot of people, including us, about a month ago, said, you know what the show needs? Somebody who may not be related to the show. You know what it needs? Maybe a female showrunner. You know what it needs? Maybe a POC showrunner. You know what it needs? Maybe all three of those. And what did they do? They did nothing of the sort.
No.
And on top of that, here we go, fans. All of you just said, nostalgia, get that bath ready because I'm diving in. I'm like, well, how are these arguments any less invalid? Why are they invalid all of a sudden? Just because it's a guy you know? Like, wait a minute. And I think he probably will do a good job with it. Well, not if, when he takes over. But having said that, why is all the other stuff we were talking about just not a going concern anymore? Anyway, sorry.
The nostalgia train... The ridership of the nostalgia train is full to overflowing right now.
Yeah, and I'm kind of half and half on that because, like I said, I think if I'm going to pick a showrunner, Moffat's my guy. And I love the fact that he's trolling him already, which is beautiful because I know they're friends and it doesn't really mean anything, so that's fine. But I think he will do a good job. And it's interesting because there's a whole bunch of ideas behind an expanded Doctor Who universe, which he kind of did ahead of time. And that's interesting. And it does sort of tie into what you were talking about, Stephen, with competing with Disney Plus and HBO Max. And the fact is that he's doing it for Bad Wolf, and Bad Wolf is going to take over as an entity to make it, all of which probably does position the show properly for the next decade or so, if that is what they want to do with it. All that's great. It just stuck in my craw that everybody was like, well, I like this guy and what he did, so everything's fine again. I'm like, not necessarily. And maybe, and I hope so, but not necessarily, guys. Like, this is not a catch-all. Like, I don't understand why the arguments, like, okay, what's her name? Sally Wainwright apparently has a huge deal, so she can't do it if she ever wanted to in the first place. And we've already argued before, like somebody like Michaela Cole or Phoebe Waller-Bridge may want to do their own stuff, and more power to them, right? But it sticks in my craw that a guy who's already done it once is doing it again. I'd rather have somebody new. Whether or not it's any good, I'd rather have somebody new, whoever that might be.
Is that simply because he's done it before and it's somebody else's turn? Or is it because
if Moffat was coming back, I'd feel the exact same way.
Okay.
I look at it as, I mean, yes, he's obviously a known entity. Yes, Doctor Who was probably at, apart from the 50th anniversary, the RTD years when Doctor Who was new-ish again, and being wildly popular, was sort of seen as the glory time for modern Who. It was like, Journey's End, #1 in the ratings that week. I mean, it's like, holy crap, and everyone's sort of like, wow, let's bring that back again. I look at it.
But was Journey's End any good?
Voyage of the Damned viewing figures?
Yeah, but of course, the TV universe has changed immeasurably since then.
Yep.
Yes.
And I think they looked around and going, well, who do we get to write for this show, this massive juggernaut that we have, that we've basically made so big that only people who can handle massive juggernauts can do this show now, who has bold ideas to perhaps to expand it, and who is one of the top writing and producing talents in TV today, and it's Russell T Davies. Let's face it,
Yeah,
And-
I can't argue with any of that.
Like if RTD hadn't even written, if he didn't bring the show back and somebody else did in 2005, it would everyone would think, holy crap, what an amazing thing. Look what he just, years and years, and it's a sin, and the things that he has made since Doctor Who have been astounding. And I think we'd all be going, oh my God, like this is amazing. I think that RTD is the one that we probably should be expecting, just because the TV universe has changed so much.
So-
and I certainly hope so. And what you're saying makes sense to me. It just bugs me that there's got to be a huge pool of talent, and they just went back to somebody they already had, and it just kind of bugs me. I'm sorry.
So all these things that RTD is getting praise for from
Right.
the last few years, It's a Sin was great. Years and Years was great, except for the ending. He's done some really, really good stuff, but the biggest thing that you pointed out was the massive shift in the TV landscape. Because when he started, when he started prepping and writing Doctor Who back in 2003 or whatever, there was no Netflix streaming, whatever. All these things that he's getting praised for, at least in Britain, they're airing on traditional TV.
Right. Yeah.
That's true too.
He's not putting these things out for BritBox or UK Netflix or whatever. So his reception and writing skill and production, whatever, aside, is he the right person based on that?
And he very well might be. I don't know.
He doesn't decide where these things go out. I mean, it is very much a British thing. I mean, I think It's a Sin showed up on Prime like weeks or something after the fact, and
That's true.
It was on. In Canada, it was on Crave. So yeah, I mean, it's hitting the streaming stuff elsewhere, but not where he's not the market he's writing it for.
No, which I think honestly, I mean, we have lots of thoughts about this.
The question comes up: if it's BBC Studios, is that the market he's writing for, or is he writing for the global market? Which I would argue he probably is.
And how does Bad Wolf fit into this?
It is 100% the global market. I think I've been over the past few weeks. I've sort of been beating this drum, tilting at the windmill, that I think Doctor Who deserves to be on a bigger platform than just BBC One on a Sunday night after Strictly Come Dancing or something like that. I think it needs to be taken a little more global. I think it needs to be sort of, everywhere at once sort of thing, like literally every single other show that it is now competing with. This was not the case in 2005 to 2009. Everything was on terrestrial television back then. You might tape it or something, or PVR it, or to watch it later. Even the iPlayer wasn't really coming in until later on. I think that is 100% the approach that's going to happen now. I think this might be, what is it? The show that their Bad Wolf is producing. It's got the little each of the characters has a little animal with them. What's it called? It's on BBC One and HBO.
No idea.
I can't remember what it's called now. They do a show. I'm sorry, everyone. For getting that name of the wrong. It was on BBC. It's a big thing. Except for me, I don't quite go in for the fantasy. But I think this is very much
His Dark Materials.
Yes, His Dark Materials. The partnering with Bad Wolf, I think, is the big thing here, because
I think you're right.
You've got Jane Tranter, you've got Julie Gardner, who also, of course, brought back Doctor Who, but now they are successful producers in their own right.
And even though he's part of Moffat's team, Piers Wenger is still head of drama or whatever at BBC as well, so he's involved.
So this is the intriguing part to me, is that who came to who first? Did Piers Wenger and the BBC say, hey, let's reach out to Russell T Davies and see if he wants to come back? Because maybe we need to sort of kick this up a little bit. We, having 8 episodes every 18 months is not a way to sell our global brand anymore? Or was it Russell T Davies chomping at the bit saying, hey, I think based, as recently as a few months ago when he's sort of talking about like there should be a Doctor Who expanded universe, like this should be a thing. I was 10 years ahead of my time with Sarah Jane and Torchwood.
Just to address that,
okay.
Because besides him saying that, whether or not he wants to do it, it's all speculation at this point, mostly by fans, including myself.
It is, but
I remember saying, well, hold on one second.
All right.
I remember saying months and months and months ago with somebody else, this is one of the few universes that I can actually pull that off. You got Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek, maybe a couple other ones. A lot of them just like the dark universe they tried to do and failed with. Like a lot of stuff just can't sustain this. Doctor Who in the right hands, which might be Russell T Davies, can actually pull this off, I think. So it would be interesting to see if they do. I hate it when people say save the show because I don't think the show needed to be saved in the first place. Moffat and Chibnall did a fine job with what they did.
Yeah.
You can argue back and forth whether or not you liked one or the other, but they did different things and more power to them for doing that. But this is the one of the few universes where you can actually pull off a cinematic or stream-o-matic probably universe.
Yeah.
So I
get
haven't,
away with it.
I haven't read the stuff that RTD put out there a while ago about the Doctor Who universe kind of thing. So Warren, I'm just going to put you on the spot here. You are now some bigwig TV exec. Doctor Who is looking for such things as spin-offs to, grow the brand. What do you spin off?
Well, he already probably owns the rights to Torchwood, so why not do more of that in a different way? Like, not guarantee, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a revival of Torchwood minus a certain character. And
John Barrowman was just on QR this week.
And this is what I wouldn't do as a TV executive, because TV executives don't think like this. But I would basically go, hey, Nicholas Briggs and the rest of the Big Finish crew, what are the best things you've done? Let's see if we could spin those off into TV.
This is the thing.
Because it's sitting right there. Why not?
I'm reading the comments that he did. So Paul Kirkley did an interview with him, and he had to cut some of the stuff just because, print and stuff. But part of the stuff that he cut, that he pasted and tweeted about not long ago. Actually, he tweeted as after back in January, so well before this news happened. Obviously, is where he's talking about here's a quote from RTD back then. I was in the middle of running an empire. Oh my God, I did that 10 years too soon, didn't I? There should be a Doctor Who channel now. You look at these Disney announcements, all of these new Star Wars, Marvel shows. You're thinking, we should sitting here announcing the Nyssa Adventures or the return of Donna Noble. Like, he's sort of slightly facetious, but then he's sort of like, then Paul Kirkley says, even the Nyssa Adventures? Yes, you laugh. But
I'd watch that.
Did Star Trek fans ever think they'd be getting a Captain Pike series? Ever? That's insane. Honestly, I'm curious. I mean, obviously, Doctor Who's a different thing because there is one central figure, and it's the Doctor. And whoever that current Doctor is, that's the show. And anything else you do is sort of like you can't, step on the toes of the main show. I'm starting to wonder, is that an outmoded kind of thing? Like, we often
there's no changing it. You've still got to have Doctor Who.
Obviously, but we often thought about there's, if we're waiting, the gap year, the first gap year, like if we're waiting a whole year for another series of Doctor Who, why don't we have a Paul McGann series or something like that? And at the time I thought, that'd be silly. But now I'm starting to think, why wouldn't we? I mean, Chris Chibnall has.
Why not?
Chris Chibnall has blown it open, and that there's a whole bunch of pre-Hartnell Doctors. You technically could have series based on new Doctors that you don't know where they fit in to the canon and just tell different adventures, possibly, How
many Star Wars series do we have on Disney Plus now?
Yeah.
A billion.
Bad Batch and what's the name?
And it used to
or
be.
whatever.
It used to be Star Wars is all revolving around the Skywalker family, basically. And now it's not the case, and it's better for it, frankly.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. So I have no problem at all with, and like I said, Big Finish for one, but other stuff. There's other source material you could draw from. There's almost 60 years worth of lore that you can. And what Marvel does, which is very smart, is they take bits and pieces of their comics and go, this works in a movie, this works in a movie, this works in a TV show, this does not, this doesn't, this doesn't. They just pick and choose with the best stuff, and then they make that into the new continuity, for lack of a better term, because none of that stuff ties into the actual comics. Doctor Who should do the same thing. They should grab the best ideas, like, say, I don't know, the 11 or something from Big Finish, or other bits and pieces, and just take the good stuff and use it.
We could have
Why
Drax.
not? It's sitting there.
Yeah.
We could have Drax as a green grocer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, this is back to my original question. Like, I'm curious as to who approached who. Judging by his enthusiasm, I don't think Russell T Davies was like having to be like convinced to do this. Which makes me think, like, as RTD, I use this in this reference in a Slack, so please bear with me. Was Russell T Davies like Captain Kirk on the bridge of the new Enterprise at the beginning of Star Trek Generations, with Alan Ruck's captain sort of like trying to like will his way out of this crisis and looking over his shoulder the whole time thinking, is this the way to do it? And, Alan Ruck is Chris Chibnall, and like RTD sort of go, I'm not going to say anything. I have like 18 ideas right now that I need to do. And then,
that seems a little disingenuous.
Like, I know, like, I'm wondering, like, has RTD been dissatisfied privately with how Doctor Who has been recently, and thinking like, I would like to come back and make it a big thing again with a multi, property universe sort of thing. And like, I'm chomping at the bit, and maybe this is the time to do it. Or did Piers Wenger and the BBC sort of say, you know what, let's make this bigger. Let's go back to what we know really, really worked. Maybe they weren't happy with the way it's been going. I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious who started the conversation.
I would assume the conversation began at the BBC.
I would.
This is based on nothing but conjecture. But I would assume the conversation started at the BBC. RTD,
because at the end of the day, they own it. So
yep. RTD might have been one of maybe a short list, but still a list of people who had to pitch, and maybe they just liked his pitch the best. And I think that Bad Wolf probably would have come in after he was picked, when he's like, let's get the gang back together and do it the way we did it.
Yeah, because from what I gather, my ravens tell me that I think there were some like, hey, you know what, like, send in your pitch, because JMS did a pitch, and I think I know of at least one other writer I think sort of threw his hat in the ring and sort of
I saw a tweet that said, somebody tell the Babylon 5 guy.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, we could be entirely proven wrong. There's a book coming out, very advantageous. We just saw it. It's called The Long Game by Paul Hayes, that's coming out in November, all about how the inside story of how the BBC brought back Doctor Who, which is fascinating timing, Paul Hayes. Well done on that timing. It's the first time RTD brought back Doctor Who. I'm really intrigued to see how long ago the conversations were happening. I mean, it's not like Bad Wolf can sort of say, oh, sure, we've got the resources and the time and energy to just pause all of our TV productions and produce nothing but Doctor Who and its assorted properties.
Yeah, good point.
At some point they probably have to say, okay, well, here's what we have a window for and stuff. I'm so curious as to who approached who during this. I mean, it's obviously making a splash, bringing back RTD, and everyone's like, go on.
I'd just like to point out, despite my initial misgivings, here I am ranting and raving about how cool it could be. So I'm a hypocrite, frankly.
Sure, but aren't we all? Obviously, at least from my perspective, one of my early thoughts at all this was, oh, him again? But I don't like his writing.
I was going to bring that up. This podcast is not a fan of his exit. Let's face it. We were.
There's okay. Having said that, Utopia is still one of my all-time favorites. There's some great writing in the RTD era, mostly by him. But then there's some real crap too, like the Metacrisis Doctor. I want nothing to do with. End of time. Thank you and good day.
As any number of people have pointed out on Facebook or wherever that I've seen, I mean, everyone's got their good and their bad. So for every Utopia, there's a fear her or
and anytime anybody criticized Love and Musters, like it or hate it, I love it. I think it's fantastically written.
Everybody criticizing Chibnall,
but anyway, but it's a very RTD era episode. Anyway, for everybody criticizing Chibnall, you sat there on the edge of your seat during Fugitive of the Jadoon. So come on, people. This applies to Every showrunner.
Or the Haunting of Villa
Diodati, yeah.
Or conversely, all the I can't remember the name of the episode, but the one A Good Man Goes to War could have been a lot better. Even though I love Moffat, could have been a lot better.
Mm-hmm. I know. I know. I think I mentioned this earlier. Is that the RTD that started Doctor Who is not the same one that left it, and obviously it's not the same now. I look at we go from farting aliens. Because he's thinking that we need to sort of get back the family audience and stuff. Like that's for the approach at the beginning. And then he leaves the Doctor Who universe essentially with Children of Earth, Tortured Children of Earth, which I think is still the best 5 hours of TV he's ever written. And I think that that's closer to what we'll get. I think that...
Yeah, or Years and Years and It's a Sin infused, which is also great as far as I'm concerned. Including a specific actor who could be the Doctor, I'm just saying.
Children of Earth.
I can't remember her name, but...
He wrote 3 of the 5.
Starts with a T.
What, you were both talking over each other. I don't know.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. I was going to say, Children of Earth, he wrote 3 of the 5, because he had...
Okay, yes, and he had nothing to do with anything else with regarding nothing at all.
And I was just very quote unquote subtly hinting that a certain actress who is also in Doctor Who as the Gallifreyan war commander guy who turns into a woman, she should definitely be the next Doctor. She'd be a rad Doctor.
Oh, Tanai Miller.
Thank you. I cannot remember her name.
Yeah, I thought you were just sort of being like, oh, we can't mention names on this podcast lest we think.
No. I just can't remember her name. I have this weird blank where I see her name and it just goes away.
Right.
But she would be a great Doctor based on Years and Years, basically.
Yeah. So it shows to me anyway how time has sort of healed the wounds, because I am the Moffat era is my favorite of the modern series. Series 8 and 9 are my favorite. So obviously I skew a little grumpier and darker when it comes to my Doctor Who. I love Capaldi's first 2 years. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people were just sort of, oh my God, I loved Doctor Who, and it was fresh and exciting and new and running around and, shipping and all this stuff during the RTD years.
And there's nothing wrong with all of that.
As we said, this podcast did not look upon the end of his era very kindly at all. I don't think we're going to get that sort of Doctor Who again.
I don't either. I don't think TV is like that anymore either.
No, it's not like, you even just visually. I mean, the HD era started with Planet of the Dead. Like just as RTD and crew were heading out the door, we decided, hey, maybe we should make this look better. And even then, the HD in the 4 episodes of the RTD era are like, okay, sure, you're in a desert.
And to be fair, Moffat's era looked good too, but it didn't look anything like it does now.
No. So visually, it's entirely changed. I'm intrigued now to see what RTD does with the scope and the budget that Doctor Who has sort of become, and where it partnering with Bad Wolf maybe that increases the budget a little bit when you have a second company funneling money into this thing. I'm really intrigued, and so my immediate reaction, because I was sleeping. Erica came and woke me, and didn't wake me up. She said, "Oh, are you awake now? Because everything's going crazy." First of all, there's a new kitten at Kitten Academy, so that was like, wow, that was amazing. And then she said they announced the new Doctor Who showrunner. It's Russell T Davies, and I was like, what? I basically
Am I still asleep? What's going on here?
Like I was shocked and not like, dreading it. I was excited because I immediately thought of where RTD has been from 2009 to today, and not what he was doing from 2005 to 2009.
I'll say this much.
All right.
Despite my past misgivings with RTD,
yep.
Like any problems I've ever had with him have all been down to writing. Usually because he can't close the deal. He can't write an ending.
He could.
It's not a satisfying one. But I'm 2 things. Number one, I'm more than happy to give him another chance because of other stuff he has done and how much growth he must have experienced as a writer and a producer and a human, and just a different perspective as an older person. I'm very, very much willing to give him a chance. And secondarily, I look forward to his return more than I did Chibnall taking over the series.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Also,
I'm there.
having thought about what you were saying, Chris, about him being in there to put it to bed, I don't know, that smells more like internet conspiracy theory than real life. No showrunner wants to do that.
I
I don't know.
nobody.
That's the thought I had without anyone's
But I mean,
reactions.
if you were hired to do that much work, would you do it just to kill a thing?
Yeah.
Just let it die. Why put all that
I
effort in?
really don't think that. I think
It's not to kill it. It's to put it back to bed so it can be woken up in X number of
that
years.
that seems like something that makes more sense on an internet forum post than it does in real
Yeah,
life.
I think with what we've been talking about expanding it, it's here to be expanded. This isn't like this isn't
Prove me wrong.
this isn't Mandalorian coming to Disney Plus to say let's finish up Star Wars. This is the Mandalorian coming to Star Wars at Disney Plus and launching 10 spin-off series, which is probably way too many, but
yeah. And like you said, Stephen, the TV is radically different. This is putting it to bed be the kind of thing you would do in the old days of TV because you had a limited amount of room to put things in.
Yeah.
And now you don't. There's no reason to put anything to bed, good or bad, as we can see from, I don't know, 3/4 of what's on Netflix. There's absolutely no reason for anybody to put anything to bed. Or conversely, the reason Netflix does do that is because of their own finances and the way they view ratings that we'll never know about.
Yeah.
But point being, it's just a different landscape, and killing something off doesn't make anywhere near as much sense.
None.
as it used to.
You say that, but despite successes of things like the MCU, but Iron Fist and Luke Cage, is it?
Yeah, but there's a
Daredevil.
whole corporate thing behind that. That wasn't the same. That wasn't the MCU. That was owned by a completely different set of executives who hated each other. So that's why, like the guy in charge, Ike Perlmutter, I think his name was, he's no longer in charge. Those characters have all moved over to MCU. So they'll probably get integrated at some point, sooner or later. But that was that all ties back to how Marvel was almost bankrupt and a bunch of stuff got sold to different people, including Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah.
X-Men
So those
sold
are
to
lesser.
Fox, yeah.
Exactly. So this is kind of that again, and that's why those things were different because they were not being handled by the Kevin Feige side of things.
Very, very much late to the game. Not too long ago, I started watching season 3 of Daredevil. It's actually decent stuff.
Yeah, they're not bad, but they aren't in that realm.
No.
you know?
No, of course not.
they're being farmed out. They're kind of like franchises,
Exactly.
like there's that weird
Yeah.
Tim Hortons. It's like, why is this in a Save on Foods? I don't know what this is here for.
But it's as if that Tim Hortons is actually kind of disliked intensely by the other Tim Hortons down at the end of the mall.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically what it was.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by, obviously he'll be writing a lot because it's amazing that he still has ideas, brewing over the last 10 odd years. I mean, I'm wondering what new Doctor Who ideas he'll bring. I'm wondering who he will bring on as writers. He mostly populated the return in 2005 with writers who had sort of been writing stuff throughout the wilderness years,
Rob and Paul and all, yeah.
Now you have writers who basically grew up watching his Doctor Who. People started writing. They're young people who are like, oh my God, I love this Doctor Who. I'm going to write fantasy stuff now. Like these are people that you could also mind. There's a whole wide variety.
I hope
think,
they
of
do.
writers. Yeah.
And just as a mea culpa, like I sit here being cranky and blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. I saw so many people like half my age who were beside themselves with glee because they grew up with this. And frankly, just like Star Wars, it's for them now, not me. So the fact that they're happy about this is good, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
not that you need my
hasn't been
judgment
fresh
on
for
that or
years.
anything, but yeah, I'm kind of glad they're so happy. That's great. So it doesn't really matter if I am or not, frankly.
So, it was, Stephen, one of your favorite things to say is how a band singer, whoever, songwriter, they have their whole life to prep their first album, and such a limited period to prep their second, comparatively anyway.
So is this All Things Must Pass, or is this the
this
Spaghetti
is-
Incident, or
so
Chinese
this is-
Democracy? or whatever?
you said, Stephen, it's amazing he has ideas still bubbling. Well, he's had a decade to work on, or better than a decade to work on whatever concepts he wants to potentially bring back. So he could have, enough. he gets stories for years, as the Simpsons would say.
They really don't, though.
Potentially,
That's the funny thing.
unlike Moffat, who in season 10, he had no expectation of being there.
Yeah.
And season 10's writing, I mean, there's some okay stuff in there for sure, but it wasn't his best work, as you called out earlier, saying 8 and 9 were, your preferred Capaldi years.
That's my
There's
Doctor
still
Who.
some good stuff.
Yeah.
Although it's not Heaven Sent, which is transcendent.
On a related note, so Chibnall brought in the whole writer's room concept. Do you think RTD is going to keep that around? Or is it going to be more individualistic?
It depends. It depends on how they do things.
Yeah.
Like if
Can
they're
you get
if
away?
they've got a universe, then probably.
I think they have to.
Like,
I think they have
I mean,
to.
look at the way Marvel's doing stuff on TV. Like they're doing a writer's room with a head staff writer, and then Kevin Feige is the guy in charge. I would not be surprised to see that same sort of, just because you have to do that structure, you get all this stuff out there.
Yeah.
Because obviously they had the writer's room for Miracle Day, but I don't know if that was his idea or if that was Stars forcing that on them.
It was that for
it wouldn't
Fear
surprise
and for
me, yeah.
Children of Earth too, is a writer's room as well. Kind of. I mean, it was more of a writer's room in Miracle Day, but
Part of the reason writers' rooms exist is because, well, first of all, it's tradition in the States,
Yeah.
but also it's efficiency, because they had much longer, like tons of episodes, 20 odd episodes means you have to have a writer's room to get that done. Whereas in England, you didn't really have to do that as much because of the way it was set up. And now things have kind of shifted in their direction the way it used to be in England. But there are reasons to take on the writer's room because of the sheer volume of stuff being put out. So I think it's probably going to be a writer's room, based on nothing but just guesses.
yeah, just because of how much he's going to take on,
If in fact they do that.
Yep.
We don't know that for a fact. He's just said, I'd like to do that. But he said a lot of things back in the day too.
I like that, with Jane Tranter and Julie Gardner, we have women in a very high position of power running the show again. I was looking at Bad Wolf, their staff list. It's a very diverse, mostly women actually, in their creative team and that place, which is kind of cool too. So the head person, yes, is a male, but I'm pleased that we have some more female representation at the top of the production thing. I like how we've barely broached. I know, Warren, you mentioned like who could be the new Doctor. We're like all still like just
If it's Russell Tovey, we know we're doomed.
all about this.
Nothing against you, Russell Tovey, but come on.
So yeah, I was gonna ask earlier and I forgot. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Have they cast the Doctor? Do you think? Or
I don't think they have.
if they haven't, is it gonna because Eccleston basically, according to lore anyway, he asked to be considered because he wasn't otherwise going to be.
Yeah.
So assuming the Doctor has yet to be cast, I got to think that as a producer, exec producer, RTD's skills are probably going to be very much put to use in casting and selection.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's going to be highly sought after. It sure brings in those Ollie Alexander rumors from a few weeks ago. It brings those home, doesn't it?
God, yeah, big time.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's so weird because it's the number of actors is infinite. You never know who they would pick. If we had just sort of thought about, this actor would be great at it, or this actor, we wouldn't have had Matt Smith, who's probably the greatest Doctor ever. He is so awesome, and we would have never have thought about him unless we actually auditioned some actors to see how they would do. So I never speculate on that. Plus, I got Peter Capaldi. I got my wish. I got my one Doctor. And so who knows? I'm not even thinking that time. But you raised a good point, though, Chris. Did he come with an idea of who the Doctor is going to be? Did he come with an idea of what spin-off shows they might produce?
I have an idea that is is definitely not going to happen, but you'll like this. He did that whole thing in It's a Sin, not making fun of, but sort of aping Resurrection of the Daleks as a test bed for multicam.
We're bringing it back to BBC TV Centre.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's never going to happen.
Get the cameras out. No. We're doing this. No, we're not. That's the only way they could do it.
And
listen,
for all my hooting and hollering, I kind of got it in It's a Sin. What the hell am I complaining about? There's my multicam.
That's probably what he says, thinking, okay, well, Russell, I like that you have 8 ideas now for new shows, but here's the thing. We're going to have to make them a little cheaper. So, yes, you can have your 8 shows, but they will have to be shot on multicam videotape.
And we're going to have the hours we had back in the old days with strikes. We're just going to have random strikes we throw in for the hell of it.
Well, hell, there might be a strike happening anyway in the industry.
It turns out this entire thing is including COVID, is Operation Golden Age writ large. We've all been hypnotized this whole time.
That's it. Everyone's sort of saying, "Oh well, obviously Murray Gold's going to come back to do the music." I don't know about that, but if there's anyone who I feel is sort of like, "Okay, I'm done with Doctor Who," it might be Murray Gold. I think he's given his all.
And the flip side is Gold has done darn near everything that Russell Davies has done.
And this is my main not complaint, because I like Murray Gold's music quite a bit, but I just don't want to see this and this and this person is coming back. When Russell T Davies comes in and does this, I want it to be new, and I think it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to retread of stuff. That was my number one dread. Is like, they're just going to do the same damn thing over again. Which okay, I guess, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Despite the retread of all the execs, yeah.
It's what I'm curious about, because when RTD brought it back in 2005, and I understand that we're not, like, I remember when it was announced that Series 13 will be one long story, and everyone was going, "Oh, it didn't work. Control of a Time Lord." I was like, well, okay, it's 1986. It's a different era.
Yeah, exactly.
And these are two different eras as well. And
we liked a lot of it.
Yeah. But when I think about when, especially that first season, when Russell T Davies was doing his damnedest to even mention anything, like, we're gonna reference Davros, but we're not gonna call him by his name. It took him 3 years to mention the name Gallifrey in the show,
which is fine.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Exactly.
At the time, it made sense.
And now, but I mean, that was when because you realize that probably there's a whole generation of people who had never seen the show before, and this was their introduction to it. Now, of course, people grew up on his version of the show. Does he reference that? Does he go back to it a lot? Or I think this is where I'm wondering if sheer pride of being a writer, you don't really necessarily want to say, well, I'm just going to go back to the well of my own stuff and just reference
my
it.
gut says he won't.
Yeah,
but
I feel like he's going to try and...
fervent hope is he doesn't.
Who's had a chance to look at Billy Piper or Catherine Tate Stay Planners?
Basically, don't bring back the Slitheen. That's all I'm asking you, Russell.
I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm wondering. I bet you that first season will be like fresh and new and exciting, and then the second season, there we go, bringing the stuff back.
Here's the other thing: the show has when under his tenure, the show was pretty damn whimsical, and it kind of lost that as things went on. And I wouldn't mind seeing that again. To be honest with you, I'm convincing myself. I was all hellfire coming into this. Now I'm like, well, maybe that's not bad.
But do you want the farting aliens?
No, I do not want the farting aliens.
How whimsical is too whimsical?
I want about a 60% whimsy, I guess.
Because even things like Bill and the Doctor sitting on a bench talking about the gender fluid nature of Time Lords, that's kind of whimsical.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Actually, I know what I'm saying. If I hear anybody, this means you, Chip, say, "Bring back 10 and Rose," I am coming to your house and I am scattering papers everywhere.
I am intrigued. I mean, I think that obviously this is going to be pitched in a different way. Maybe they are still going to try and go for appointment television on BBC One. I still think that it should be a little more global in its approach, and maybe it should be tied in with an HBO Max sort of release schedule. What I'm curious about is that when I mentioned all the shows and who they're competing with essentially are like all on Disney Plus and everything else, most of these shows are geared towards adults, or at the very least, young adults, so there hasn't really been a family show that has sort of been appointment streaming. You know what I mean? Like everything, and even the shows that go to streaming almost kind of like up their game. Like for some reason they swear in Star Trek now, which I still think is dumb, because it feels like, hey, we could swear now. Let's just swear. Let's just drop F-bombs in the middle of Star Trek Discovery.
Although there is one really good quote I'm not going to repeat here, which does about hubris, which is which wouldn't have worked as well without the swearing. But
sure,
yes. But generally I agree with you.
Yeah, it feels like, oh wow, we don't have to worry about like broadcast standards anymore in regards to content, so we can do whatever we want in streaming shows. And I'm wondering now, like, I don't think Doctor Who's going to go that way. I think Russell T Davies still has...
You can swear on the BBC, that's fine.
Well, I know, but I still think he has that family audience in mind.
I hope so.
And it might have been something that he was hoping to win back again in 2005 when he brought the show back. But I think when we talk about TV having changed so much, I think those, TV is essentially variety shows on Saturdays and Sunday nights now.
Yeah, exactly.
And occasional, you get your Line of Duty ratings blockbuster every now and again, but everyone loves an ongoing cop show. So really, it feels like, oh,
I don't, but sure.
No, but but the general public do.
Yes.
And so this is what I'm curious is how will this version of Russell T Davies Doctor Who be pitched? Will it be, I assume it's going to be for a family audience, but will it be on a specific evening again, or will it be, hey, watch this show on streaming as it drops?
I bet it's on Saturday night. I could see him lobbying it for it to be on Saturday.
I don't know. I feel like that's like Saturday night. It's all Strictly Come Dancing now. Like Doctor Who was like sort of it came back there, but then it just started getting kicked around, and it was like airing at 8:40 because airing before Strictly was too early and airing after it was too late. But they chose late because it was better than airing at like 5 in the afternoon. And I just don't think that's the way it's going to be.
By the way, I can't be the only person who feels this way.
Right.
When you see the Masked Singer ads, because I've never actually watched the show, do you get Vengeance on Varos vibes? Because I definitely get Vengeance on Varos vibes.
I have literally never seen a single second of any footage.
And Max Headroom vibes too.
Sure.
Basically, it feels like Whack It.
Not even sure what
really
that is.
Age myself.
All right. So that's what I'm curious about that. I'm curious about who the Doctor will be, but I'm mostly curious about how the show will be distributed and how it will be pitched. And I'm intrigued. I feel like this is a Russell T Davies who is looking to build a second legacy in regards to Doctor Who, not bringing back to kill it. Because God, imagine that! Imagine his reputation. I brought back Doctor Who back, and then I killed it. I killed it.
Why would you willingly be Michael Grade? Nobody wants that.
No,
it would go against that picture he took with.
Yeah, it may not be his decision. They just,
I honestly, Chris, I mean, this might just be me optimistic. It just feels like everything is expanding right now in regards to TV universes. Why should it start? I wouldn't have thought there are 2 animated Star Trek series on right now. We've been dumping on the original animated series for 40 years now.
I haven't. The original animated series is great. You can go to hell.
I know. I was waiting.
As much as anything, because of as much as we talk about how overnight viewing figures don't matter in this world anymore.
Right.
Those numbers are still dwindling, which might take away from terrestrial broadcast at the end of the day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if Doctor Who has run its course in its current form and it needs to rest, this is a good way to do that, I think.
But to me, it says more about Doctor Who fandom than it does a morose bunch of doomsayers than it, including myself, than it does actually what anybody would do in television. Nobody's going to come in to kill something. Why bother? Besides the reputation thing, it's just what an unfulfilling thing to do.
I don't want to be right. I really don't. But that was my thought.
Wow. I am glad in a way that, Chris, you have... this feels like a throwback in a way, just because I think you were a lot more pessimistic in the early days of this podcast during the RTD era.
And you might be right. I mean, I could be wrong about this.
Well, I'm still a pessimist by nature.
I know. But I feel like you've become less of a pessimist over the past few years. And now...
I've become more of one.
now it's like, oh, RTD's back. So really, everything's coming back. Chris is pessimistic again.
No. Yeah, like I said before, I'm happy to welcome him back with open arms and see what he can bring back to it.
That was on his contract. Will Chris like me?
Yeah.
This is the important thing here. Not Chibnall, Burgess. One other thing about the universe is what you said about the family show. I don't think the main show will change in that aspect. I don't think it'll be like the new Trek shows. But I do think, like he did before, you're going to have a family show somewhat like Sarah Jane Adventures. You're going to have and they don't necessarily have to be that, but Torchwood type adult show. You're probably for the first time ever, disregarding the Schalke, gonna have an animated series of Doctor Who, because and you'll probably have one that's aimed at kids and another one that isn't so much aimed at kids, right? So it'll be like you'll probably have, sorry Stephen, you'll probably have a Lower Decks and honestly, given British humor and the rich veins that you could draw from this, I would love to see a Lower Decks version of Doctor Who, whatever that might form that might take.
You think of like Blackadder, like Baldric is basically Lower Decks.
Yeah, exactly. You could just take the side people from Doctor Who, wherever that might be, I don't know, Lesser Time Lords or something. Oh, that's a terrible idea.
Right.
But and I shouldn't be giving anybody ideas, frankly. But I would love to see, given the British sense of humor compared to the American one, what they would do with that kind of a premise.
Yeah.
And this is all just me riffing on stuff that already exists. Well, who knows what they're actually coming up with?
I know, like, even I think RTD has matured enough. Like, when we did our tortured commentaries, it's like it feels like, oh, the parents are gone. Let's get into the liquor cabinet.
I don't think that's not.
That's what Torchwood, especially that first season, was like. Oh, we're making adult stuff. We can swear and stuff.
Honestly, most TV was like that too. Yeah. It's not like it would, except for a few HBO shows. And I may be grossly oversimplifying this, but it wasn't the widespread it is now of different stuff.
No, I think TV as a whole is sort of, better. Well, maybe not better, I guess, at melding sort of the comedic and the, heartfelt, I think, a little bit more. I'm looking at you, Ted Lasso. I'm not a fan of it because I think it's pretty schmaltzy, but, it's a comedy per se, but there's a lot of heartfelt moments. Every time I see, I just saw Ted Lasso and I'm still crying, I think is that a comedy? But I feel like shows are better at sort of melding the comedic and
it's clearly working, whether or not it works for you.
And dramatic,
story, it is clearly working.
And this is where I think you can get more adult, so to speak, without becoming, just explicit, just saying swear words and being adult. So that might be an approach towards Dr. I think RTD was doing it anyway in regards to the emotional impact. I think he actually succeeded quite well at some of that stuff.
And compared to the original classic show, he kind of did that as well.
Well, that's a whole different TV universe too. But
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But you look at how he did things, how he changed things radically to begin with, compared to the old way. Because we were all just assuming, based on the fact we had nothing else to go on, how the hell are they going to do this? And then we saw how he did, and we're like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. We're probably going to do that again.
Maybe. Interesting times.
Should we
Yes.
Should we read out Ian Levine's response?
No, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that.
Although I'd like to point out, some people are like, well, good, Chibnall was too woke. I'm like, oh boy, you guys are in for a shock.
Yep. So anyway, 60th anniversary, 2023 is when Russell T Davies' new Doctor Who will be kicking off at some point. I mean, you speculated, Chris, do we have a new Doctor at some point? I mean, we're getting close to the end of 2021. I'm assuming that the BBC didn't want to announce this and just sort of wait until November of 2023 to make a new series of Doctor Who. I think at some point, given that the Chibnall era is probably done shooting, I think, based on what John...
Very close, if not complete, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's post-production and everything like that, but I mean, at some point, the new team's going to come in and build new sets and everything else that goes on in Cardiff, because this will still be based in Cardiff. At some point soon, I think we'll
as you're about to say as well, John Bishop took to Twitter and talked about his having wrapped his time on Doctor Who. He's back on the comedy circuit now.
Yep. He is.
So he's a one and done.
Mm-hmm. So I was never under the impression that he was on anything more than this season of Doctor Who, because it'll be an entirely new broom sweeping everything. I do like that. RTD did sort of say, I'm excited to be back on my favorite show, but we're time traveling too fast. There's a whole series of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. I do like that he's still beholden to the franchise and still I'm not the person in charge right now. I'm still a fan and enjoying to see what happens with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor here in her last season. But that the mill is a churning and things are a changing, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens in 2 years' time when we have a new old showrunner again for our favorite television show. That
hopefully
being
new is in capital letters and old is in small tiny letters and brackets.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, wow, goodness me, we talked for almost an hour just on Russell T Davies. I am honestly a bit surprised. I didn't think we'd go that long. Yeah. Unless you have anything else to reference. I feel like we've probably covered as much.
No, I think that's pretty
much as we pretty much
gone
can.
Through my emotional journey throughout this podcast.
Yeah.
I feel we've talked about it.
I think we've touched on all the big stuff.
Yeah.
RTD.
Yeah.
Now we can go on with the rest of the stuff.
the lesser stuff. It's funny. I was joking before recording about how it feels like there are two different arms going on at the BBC right now. There might be some communications problem going on because there was a Doctor Who alternate reality game. It was sort of like going on. You could find clues and stuff. The three of us weren't finding clues. We were just finding them once they were found and then telling you about them. I wasn't following along with this at all. I assumed that I would be the one to sort of like find stuff and then all of a sudden, they found another clue. And thinking, I have no idea what this is. I don't know how they found it. Anyway, the BBC tweeted out the whole list of it. Because, of course, the actual final thing, which is a brief little doctor voice message to Yaz as a YouTube clip with a slight, with a little teaser at the very end of somebody's face, that wasn't actually released. It was just sort of found in the source code of the website and brought out. So all the seeds that they were laying were completely kiboshed by someone just looking at the source code. Oh, here it is right here. But about 2 hours before the RTD news was announced, the Doctor Who account also tweeted out, "Hey, here's all of the clues in order and what it means." And I have to think, like, did they? Obviously, they knew the RTD news was coming. Did they just sort of say, "Well, here, let's throw out this stuff now and get it out of the way before the internet erupts"? I don't know. It felt very like anticlimactic is what I mean to say.
Because it was.
It was.
So that's why.
It was a little bit. I wonder if like the build-up of this, this Jodie Whittaker thing was like, did they know that RTD was coming back? Like, I just feel like there were two different strands of promotion going on at the same time.
But that's eternal. That's always been what happens at the BBC. Remember when Rose got leaked and people couldn't believe it because they didn't understand the internet existed?
That's true.
This is almost 20 years ago now, so it's not really fair to judge them on that.
That's
but
true.
Still.
Or the announcement of Class, which was the most the biggest dropped football since Robert Stansfield in 1974. To use
ooh, that's a deep cut. Also,
cut.
I kind of want to see if Class comes back. I'm sure it won't, but
I hadn't hadn't seen it before, but oh my goodness! Apparently, shortly after the RTD news from yesterday was announced, JMS tweeted, "I cannot imagine a better or wiser choice."
Oh, what a graceful concession speech!
Very diplomatic of him.
Yeah. JMS, no offense, I don't think you're on the short list. I think the short list became the real short list once RTD brought his name on board. But anyway, if you want to look at all the clues of the Doctor Who mystery game, they're all there. Links in the show notes. RadioFreeScaro.com.
There you go. Here's somebody who I'll remember to put this in the show notes. Somebody mocked up like a MCU style announcement of.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Of upcoming shows. So. The Earthly Adventures of Ace, Missy, Lost in E-Space, The Division, Defenders of the Earth, The Eighth Doctor Time War.
Oh, that was a while ago.
The hell out of that.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
My personal favorite version of this is Scorsese up on the stage with a list of all his 70s films. It was glorious.
that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Boxcar Bertha coming next year.
Anyway, hey, I don't know if you noticed this, but we are still in the midst of a global pandemic.
What?
I know. It's shocking. Yeah. It's shocking. But hey, here's some. I mean, the vaccines work. We are here to tell you to get your vaccine if you haven't yet, because it's the best way to get through this. And what was good news is that the United States announced that they're removing travel restrictions on fully vaccinated visitors from the UK and other nations sometime in November. This is big news for conventions that rely on people coming from the UK and stuff. So, in the days after this announcement, Chicago TARDIS has started announcing some guests like Michael Jaston and Colin Spall, and Gallifrey One tweeted out saying they are very happy because that's kind of a big thing. You can't just rely on Doctor Who actors that sort of happen to live in the LA area. So yeah, that's one thing might have actually been very threatening to Gallifrey One, but now it is not as much. So
slight kink in the plans for us. I saw an article this morning on CBC talking about mutos such as myself and yourself. I think Chris is exempt from this, who have AstraZeneca and something else. It's not approved yet, so we have to wait to see if they work. No,
they're working on it. They're working on it.
I thought it was anything recognized by the WHO was okay by the FDA.
No, see, the Americans have not yet recognized because there are people who have cruises lined up and they can't go yet, and they've spent upwards of $20,000 according to this article. Anyway.
Oh wow!
So I think by February this will be fixed.
It will be.
But
in Alberta, like I can, Erica and I are both cocktailers. We can get a third shot. We can get an additional dose of Pfizer because our second dose is Pfizer. So if we can here in Alberta, Warren, I'm sure that at some point
it hasn't been announced, but at some point I'll get another Moderna.
Yeah.
I have to, right? So,
we might even do that as.
I think it's a
next week.
ridiculous requirement because I haven't seen anything that says I'm not just as immune as anybody else.
No, I think the reason for it is that there are many different versions of AstraZeneca, and because it's being produced at many different parts, maybe it's tougher to approve one vaccine when it's being made in 20 different places. It's kind of like Windows and Apple's machines. Like, sure, that's a Windows machine, but I don't recognize this brand name at all. Are you sure it's a proper Windows machine?
Don't forget the Canadian brand names for the virus. The vaccines like Lothlorien or whatever.
I've already forgotten.
I just give them Lord of the Rings names because they don't have no damn sense.
So anyway, Gallifrey 1 seems very much going ahead. This might have been the last hurdle, possibly. I mean, there's obviously vaccination, which you talked about a couple weeks ago, that it's mandatory vaccines and probably masks and stuff, but things might change even then. As things hopefully get better with vaccines rolling out and people being band-aided.
That part of California is doing pretty well, from what I can tell. The top part of California, not so
much.
LA counties had a lot of problems.
Listen, LA was doing fine in February of 2020 as well. And then look what happened. People travel. This is how pandemics spread, you understand. So anyway, stay safe, everyone. Get vaccinated, and we can all be together again and have fun. Remember fun? Those were the days.
Frankly, I don't.
Those were the days. Anyway, speaking of fun and remembering back in the day, let's take a look back into the Timelash. Timelash is happening. So this is where we look back at this week in history in Doctor Who to see what aired, what happened. Ironically enough, September 24th, 2021 is when they announced that Russell T Davies was coming back to Doctor Who. It was September 26th, 2003, 18 years ago, that they announced that Doctor Who was indeed coming back to BBC One. Remember that? Remember that announcement?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it happened. It happened.
I remember, I think I saw Return of the King with you, and it just happened. That they'd announced it.
No.
Or fairly... Because I saw it in Edmonton, and you saw it with me, and you said, Doctor Who's coming back, or you hadn't told me. No, I'm telling you. No. It was a thing that was happening at that point.
This is not happening, because Return of the King came out at Christmas time in 2003, Warren. And this was September.
So what did I see because I remember you was talking about Doctor Who coming back.
Was this at work?
No, this isn't. This is what I'd come up from... Probably the Crow's Nest Pass. Oh, so it'd be 2004. I don't know. Maybe I'm mixing and matching my memories from 20 years ago because I'm old and stupid.
I think you are. I think you are conflating multiple memories. But yeah, 18 years ago it was announced the Doctor Who was coming back. 18. And just to go back to our earlier conversation about doctors, it was announced in September that Doctor Who was coming back. It wasn't until March or sometime close to shooting in actual July when they announced that Christopher Eccleston was going to be the Doctor. So it took several months after they announced that Doctor Who was even coming back before they actually cast a Doctor Who. So we might not get that. We might not get that sort of announcement until much later, until they have to, basically,
I don't see them doing it anytime soon, right after RTD anyway.
No.
That doesn't make any sense to me. And also, you're kind of overshadowing the final season and overshadowing Whittaker and Chibnall. It doesn't seem fair.
I don't think...
Now... You've said already that the BBC doesn't have, has a hand up its butt over a lot of these things, so maybe they will by mistake. But.
True. I think that we won't get a new Doctor announcement, famous last words, until after the current series has aired, because I think you sort of have to once you're starting production, which means you're going to have to overlap with the Easter special at the very least, because there's going to be one on Easter and then one for the BBC. I've already no. There's a New Year's, Easter, and the October one in 2022. I think
once it's all underway, then we'll hear something.
Yeah, which who knows when that's going to be? But it's like what old is new again? It's thinking about when doctors are going to be announced and stuff, just like we did back in 2003. We are also very much looking forward to Meglos premiering on September 27th, 1980.
It's great.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Secretly awesome.
I like it a lot.
It did what Starless couldn't.
There's actually quite a lot of first episodes. Got Planet of Evil, Begloss, City of Death.
City of Death. God, what did it get? Like 17 million viewers that first episode or something like that because ITV was on strike? Yeah.
Abominable Snow.
Which is why we should go back to the way they did things with City of Death. So we'll get 17 million viewers.
Just have two channels. Shut off all the channels, and then everyone will just be going back to that. No, they won't. No, they won't do that.
The Abominable Snowman, Pirate Planet, Invisible Enemy, Hand of Fear.
Wedding of River Song.
Lots
Also?
of Wedding of River Song, sure.
Yeah, which wrapped up a season, actually. Yeah, all these.
It did.
Who can forget the conclusion of Mysterious Planet where they mentioned the Canadian geese?
It was actually an episode
one.
One, Warren.
Oh, well. I tried.
Yeah, I know. I understand. We do have to sort of like...
I love the deep condescension in your voice. That minor point in a Colin Baker story was episode 1, dummy.
We have to cling on to our Canadian references to Doctor Who, no matter where they come.
That is true, yes.
Yeah.
RTD, you heard it here first. Said it all on Canada. Come on, you can do it.
Yeah, the Abominable Snowman, which was... Go on.
There's probably some great tax credits for shooting in Vancouver or something.
Probably.
Possibly.
Well, that weird tax credit, like, I don't understand this, Warren, maybe you know. At the end of so many films that aren't even shot in Canada, there's like this tax credit for Quebec credit that always rolls by.
I think that's probably visual effects, because there's a bunch of visual effects companies in Quebec and here and in Ontario. So whenever you see those, I always bet on it being post-production stuff more than anything else.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was watching, but that caught my eye. It's like, filmed entirely in Australia. Here's the Quebec tax credit.
Yeah, you see Ontario Creates, it's almost certainly because some VFX company in Ontario is working on it, or because there's like, on any given show, there's 10 different VFX companies. One of them is probably going to be in Canada, one's probably in England, one's probably in France. There's one called Zoic, I think, is still around in France. There's probably several others I don't know about. The Mill, if the Mill works on something, you're going to see a UK credit. Like, that's why all that stuff's there most of the time.
Interesting. Okay, or maybe it's like, Deluxe Transfer is it's a big production warehouse in Toronto that
possibly
just makes
and
tapes.
Also, tax credits don't make any sense. Here's an example I love to harp on: the fact that it is easier because there are no tax credits for writing here in Vancouver to fly out somebody from Ontario to work in a Vancouver writer's room. In order for somebody from Vancouver to work in Ontario writer's room, you have to be a resident of Ontario. So nobody ever stays here. They all go to Toronto to work in the very few writers' rooms Canada has anyway. Right. Because this tax credit thing varies from province to province, presumably the same as the States, and you get stuff like that happening. So all of this is an arcane mess, is what I'm saying.
I got you. Well, that doesn't affect how the Abominable Snowman went. I'm just trying to steer it back towards the timelines and stuff like that.
Well, you did ask. So.
Yeah, I know. I did ask.
You mentioned things wrapping up. Angels Take Manhattan was also this week.
Oh my God, Amy and Rory. We said goodbye to Amy and Rory 9 years ago. Wow.
Their era is wrapped up.
Uh-huh.
And I got to say, for all my Moffat praise, not the greatest.
I haven't watched that one in a long
okay.
I haven't watched it in a long time. I don't know.
The Angels have been better served by a certain other two-parter.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It is certainly the least best of the Moffat Angels trilogy.
Exactly.
Yeah, the middle one being my favorite. Blink, of course, being up there too. It's tough. It's tough to build on Blink and also the Time of Angels.
Time of Angels is so good.
It's such an amazing story. It's so good. Golly, it's so good. First thing they shot. Hey, let's just make one of the greatest episodes of all time as our first episode. Jeez, that first production block in the Moffat time. Man, oh man. 11th hour on those two. Heavens.
Yeah, which means the first production block of RTD2 will probably be the same. We'll be like, oh, this is great.
Maybe.
Because all the ideas he's had over the last 10 odd years or whatever it is, he's going to be pouring into that, presumably.
Yeah. The Abominable Snowman is notable just because it was, second in the season, but it was the first in that production block. And I think it was, the first with, I get confused. I think Peter Bryant was on board, at that point, as script editor. Because they gave it to Victor Pemberton for Tomb to see how he would do, and he did well. But then he says, I don't want to be a script editor, and so Peter Bryant came on board. Also, it's one of the first major location shoots, as I recall, too, for Abominable Snowman, because it was at the beginning of a production block. So they carted off to Wales with the snowy mountains there, except there were no snow on the mountains. So for some reason, the Himalayas had no snow on them. thanks to British weather. Probably rained, though.
Who's going to check on that in 1960, whatever?
I know.
Did Edmund Hillary sit up and go, that's not right?
Indeed. Anyway, anything else in the time lash that you want to talk about before we wrap this thing up? No?
I think we're good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Had a lot of
Pirate,
RTD talk.
Pirate Planet. I mean, Douglas Adams' first thing? No?
Sure. Oh, we can talk about that next week when we haven't rattled on for an hour about Russell T Davies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unless we have. Because who knows? Maybe we'll have follow-up stuff to talk about with RTD next week.
Stephen Moffat comes back for a spin-off show.
Maybe. Wouldn't that be hilarious if Moffat also wrote an episode? That would be something.
That was rank speculation on the Twitters, yes.
Yeah.
Moffat will be writing some episodes again.
Quite something.
Well, just get all the season 1 writers back.
Mark
I mean,
Gatiss.
much as I like them, I think that's not a good idea for the show.
Probably
frankly.
not, no.
I mean,
New ideas.
And they probably feel the same.
What's Mark Gatiss doing these days, right?
Yeah, what is he doing? Not writing Doctor Who. I also should mention that Fan Expo Canada, which is happening in Toronto in late October, is still going ahead. They publicly announced that it's going ahead still.
I got to tell you, my immediate reaction was the same as it is for James Bond is finally premiering. I'm like, yeah, sure it is. Sure. Okay, go on. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I think it is. I think Bond is out of hell with it. We shot this thing 8 years ago. We got to put it out sometime.
Apparently, last night on the Graham Norton show it was a No Time to Die special thing with like Rami Malek and Daniel Craig and whoever. And apparently it was just like the worst, most awkward, horrible talk show thing ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Those guys don't strike me as, let's say, truculent fellows. Either of them.
Apparently it seemed like there was a lot of animosity between the people on the stage and whatnot. So
Yeesh.
I don't know. I haven't seen it firsthand, but I'm told it was a bit of a train wreck.
Well, anyway, speaking of train wrecks conventions right now, I have no idea. I'm just trying to segue back. Chris Eccleston is slated to appear at this Fan Expo, so
Yes, yeah.
that's why we mentioned it here. Let's talk about some Big Finish stuff that is both coming soon and is out now. Doctor Who Adventure: The Lost Warriors revealed. This is now coming out in November. That's with there's artwork. This is what we usually do when we talk about Big Finish upcoming releases. We look at the artwork because that's what came out. The cover artwork was revealed, and so there's a guy on a horse. Might be a Cyberman. There's a TARDIS. There's Christopher Eccleston looking askance. That's what's happening right there.
Please tell me the horse is a Cyberman. That'd be great.
Cyber horse.
Horse is a Saigon.
Fair.
That is a reference. Anyway, Lost Warriors coming out in November from Big Finish. The Missing the Monk, that's out now. You can get that right now from bigfinish.com. Doctor Who: The War Doctor Begins, Warbringer, that's coming 2021 in December, so like 3 months hence. So there we go there. And that's it. That's it? Only three things for Big Finish?
Yep.
My God. Well, anyway, that's featuring, of course, Jonathan Carley, who does an amazing impersonation of the late,
it's
great
incredible.
John
He
Hurt.
absolutely nails it.
Yeah.
It's excellent. It's Tim Treloar level good.
Wow. So there you go. That's coming in December from Big Finish. Also coming is the Exterminart, get it, Dalek art book from Andrew Skilleter. That's coming in November of 2021. All artwork of Daleks and stuff. This isn't like from Target novelizations and stuff. This is mostly just artwork and stuff, like, artwork of an Evil of the Daleks, the soon to be released in November. Did we get that in November? I think we do. Yeah, November for Canada for the animated version. But there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Speaking of DVDs, before we go too much further, my season 24 box set is out for delivery right now. So,
oh my God, what?
It'll arrive any moment. But Stephen, you already have yours.
Let me tell you, I have
the madness begins.
Oh, I am about 2/3 of the way through the raw location footage for Delta and the Bannermen, just to give you an impression of how much this has basically been my background television, watching the making of season 24. Literally, there's like 5 or 6 hours of time on the run. There's about the same for Paradise Towers. There's 6.5 hours of Delta and the Bannerman stuff. Yes, it's literally.
Okay, you got me a Delta and the Bannerman for 6.5 hours. I would rather Just anything else. Anything else.
It's fascinating. I was actually at some point, because I mostly rely on memory because I've watched Doctor Who altogether too much, and then I can sort of like pick out, nope, this is not the take, this is not the final take. They're going to do it again because this isn't how they do it in the finished program. But there was a point where I was sort of, you know what, I'm going to watch along with the scene on the actual broadcast version, and I was like playing them in sync and stuff. And oh no, they stopped there, which means they actually like trimmed it a tiny bit. Like there's the scene where Mel meets the Kangs and stuff, and she goes, I don't want to be a Kang or anything like that, and they cut like 6 frames out just to make that shot slightly tighter.
The entire thing, just cut it, just get rid of it, wipe it from history. It never happened.
It's fascinating. You know what? What's also
it need die.
It's an
Let
interesting.
them out, all of them.
It's an interesting snapshot because I was looking at all these actors' performance stuff, and like McCoy is the one that sort of bungles his lines the most. Just waiting for a Warren comment there that never came.
But I'm done.
But you know who's like bang on with it? Like every single take, which is what made me think every time I was watching, I think, oh, is this the one they used? No, it isn't. Is the 2 actors playing Bin Liner and Fire Escape. They are bang on. They get their lines right every single time. They produce them the same way. And I think these are good actors. And they literally never act again.
Good.
Paradise Towers is the last
the curse
thing.
of Fenric, if you will.
I know. It's like I look at that and like they seem professional, and they're not like overwhelmed by what they're involved with, and they literally are done their acting career with Paradise Towers.
Embarrassment. That's what it was.
It's fascinating, you know?
They're like, Chris Clough, no. Can't.
It's Nicholas
Can't
Mallard.
work after
Oh,
him.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's like, no. And really, probably wise to do it. So if there are other extras on the Blu-ray set, I haven't even loaded the discs. I just load up the bonus disc for each story. There are extended edits for each episode. Haven't watched them. Literally,
I would criticize, but I would do the exact same thing,
right?
frankly.
It's only the raw footage that I'm watching right now. That's where I am right now. I'm watching there's a lot of stuff on there, but I'm obviously not done it yet, and I'm fascinated to continue to watch more. So yeah, you'll like it. You'll like it, Chris.
Aren't you glad, Warren, that your travel plans fell through so that you couldn't be subjected to this raw footage?
Yes, I am. Actually, I hadn't thought of that, but I'm absolutely...
Yeah.
I mean, I just ignore it like I do most of the
But anyway. Yeah, it's this thing. I'm actually paying attention to it, so I wouldn't just be putting it on in the background because I said, shut up, guys, shut up.
I love the silent give me a gold star for this that you just let up there. I'm paying attention to it.
Ian Fraser.
It's a Canada Goose, you idiot.
Ian Fraser is talking right now to the actors. Shut up, Warren. I need to hear this.
Okay.
It's really good stuff. Doctor Who, The Edge of Reality game. It was originally a VR game with your little headsets and stuff. It's coming to consoles and Steam October 14th. It was originally supposed to come out September 30th, so obviously it got bumped back a couple weeks because it's a video game, and that's just what happens. But so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Even though it's a first-person thing, I will do my best to get through it because it's a Doctor Who video game on my Xbox, which is going to be neat.
And or PS4.
And or PS4. And or Steam. I think you can wish list it, and I don't know how Steam
and
works.
it's probably on the Xbox One XYZ and the PS5, if you can get them, which I sure as hell can't.
I know. Thanks to microchips. The microchip shortage is what will be the running plot line in Russell T Davies'
Since I have
series of Doctor
both
Who.
the previous generations back again now, like I said before, in this house, we respect all the major denominations as I look at my Switch. I've been looking for both, and they are unattainable. Absolutely unattainable.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That forms the basis of the next Avatar film. They're not looking for unobtainium. They're looking for PS5.
Probably rendered on PS5, so I would not be surprised if Sony claims that anyway. Also, the next Avatar film is as much of a mirage as anything else in the world. That's how we know we're out of the pandemic, because an entirely new disease named the Avatar films has arrived. And I didn't mind the first one, but we do need more? No, we do not.
No, we don't. Maybe an Avatar expanded universe, perhaps.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, we close this episode with a couple of sad passings. John Chalice, of course, famous as Boise in Only Fools and Horses, but for our purposes, spectacular as Scorby in The Seeds of Doom, passed away at the age of 79.
Here's an interesting trivia point that I'd like to throw at you.
Right.
Apparently, he and Ice-T were Twitter buddies. Like, they were actually really good friends over Twitter. Like they would check in on each other and see how their kids were doing. Out of nowhere. When would that have happened other than Twitter? So for all Twitter's sins, and there are a multitude, that's kind of cool.
Right. John Chalice, for what it's worth, must have accidentally friended me on Facebook a few years ago because I got a friend request from John, having never interacted with him at all. So naturally I accepted, but I didn't say, hey, thanks for accepting my friend, because he would have said, I'm sorry, that was meant for somebody else. I'm unfriending you. Alas, I shall treasure that because he passed away. Obviously, I mean, he was loved. He was, everyone loved him for his performances, but also he just seemed to be a very nice chap and stuff. But my God, when you look at the list of performances from villains in Doctor Who, or even like secondary, the henchman is kind of what Scorby was. What a spectacular performance,
Oh, he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing.
Just amazing. He brings such depth to that character that he could just be Odd Job from a James Bond film, just sort of like a one-note kind of side villain and stuff. But really, he's so... he's layered, and he's obviously just a henchman, but then he's sort of stuck with the Doctor and Sarah later on. And he's sort of and he's he turns because he's his whole world is sort of crumbled around him. It's an amazing performance. It's so good. It's one of my favorite performances in all of Doctor Who, modern and classic series. So very sad that he passed away. I know he's famous for for the guy falling through the thing and the bar, the funniest thing that British TV ever made, apparently, like that, and all the other stuff, and Only Fools and Horses. But I remember him from 6 episodes of Doctor Who shot on videotape.
That's fair.
In 1976.
That is our mandate here, really. So
yeah. So there. I had no idea that Sue Holderness acted with her as well, because my TV knowledge only extends to Doctor Who and the Sandbaggers, and Sue Holderness was in the Sandbaggers, and so I didn't know this either. So I learned things when people die. This is the sad thing of life. Also, living to the ripe old age of 96 is Morris Perry.
Nicely done.
Morris Perry. Played Captain Dent, another one of my favorite performances in the Colony in Space.
Mm-hmm. He's such a great cold-blooded bureaucrat. It's awesome.
He is. He's not even evil. He's just you're in my way.
He's just an evil business guy, and that just means business guy, really.
Yeah, and that makes it even worse. I love his his sort of his acceptance that he was slightly bested a little bit. I like his cold goodbye to Ash, as Ash sort of says, I'm going to take off in the rocket, and Morris Perry sort of goes, goodbye, Ash. You can tell he means it, like that ever so slightly lowering of the veneer there is he means that he actually is kind of.
Part of that too, not to take away from the guy's performance, but part of that is the essential British understatedness that you wouldn't see on an American show. If he was a business guy, he'd be chomping at the bit. And with the Brits are just better at that understated thing. Yeah,
really is. Apparently, it was a hilarious chap. Toby Haydock was posting on Facebook and on Twitter about how he's just a fun chap. Just sort of a sardonic wit and sense of humor and stuff, and makes me want to go back to the Colony in Space DVD extras now because he's on that and the commentary and stuff. And anyway, 96, hell of an innings, as they say, for Morris Perry. All right, folks. Well, that's it. That's for this episode of Ready Free Skaro. For those that are listening on the actual podcast already, you missed a live stream. We did a live stream experiment today for this episode because we're recording.
And what was it? The exact same thing as this.
Yes, we're recording this on a Saturday. There are no recording breaks. You didn't hear any recording breaks at all. It's something we might do in the future. We'll perhaps with a little more fanfare and stuff, but we wanted to try it here. So thanks to those who listened to this early, and thanks, of course, to everyone who's listening on the regular release date. Next week, nothing will happen, which means that there'll probably be 3 Doctors announced at once or something for 3 different spin-off series made by Russell T Davies, and we'll talk for another hour and a half about that. Who knows? Anyway, until next time, everyone, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreescaro.com, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro, subscribe to us on iTunes, and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.